Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Cheryl Schmidt from Vital Chiropractic, and I am here today to do a talk and tea with amazing Lisa Engle. Some of those of you who are in the chiropractic profession probably have heard Lisa's name around. She does OptiMOM coaching, and I've met her probably about 4 years ago almost at the Pathways to Family Wellness summit that they had. And so I met you there and got really interested in what you were doing, and I kind of followed you around watching what you're doing for moms. And I think it's amazing that you're reaching out to not only chiropractic moms, but the general population and anybody who has kids and wants to live a healthier, happier, and more impactful life. So this is Lisa. I'm going to just do a quick I'm actually going to read a little bit about her bio so you know a little bit more about her for those of you who haven't been introduced to Lisa before. She is a mother of 5, and that in itself should give her credibility to talk about being able to survive the childhood years. She's also a chiropractic advocate, an assistant, a lecturer, an author. She's got some books coming out here in the near future. Owner of OptiMOM Coaching, and now co-owner of the Atlanta Natural Health Center, or in the health clinic, sorry. At OptiMOM Coaching, which is mostly what we're going to be talking about today, she has a vision of a well world, is held at the center, and a great recognition that to raise healthy and well children, we need healthy and well parents. With nearly 3 decades of serving in the chiropractic profession, the language of integrity, function, potential, and inside-out health is one that flows effortlessly with her, giving a reflective model for moms to grow with as they need their family's well-being. So I'm happy to have Lisa here. We're going to talk about why did you focus on moms, and what did you see a need in since you've been doing this for 3 decades? You obviously saw a need. So what started you on this journey?
Well, I speak mother, quite frankly. It's my language. It's probably my first language at this point because I do have kids. I actually didn't mean to start a coaching company. It was born out of getting the credentials, what I thought I needed in order to write the book that I'm writing for the chiropractic profession, but detoured to create OptiMOM Coaching because it was a vision that was sort of like almost handed to me. I served in a leadership capacity for a group of moms, and then I've also run the clinic for almost 3 decades and helped patients tie choices to their value system. So what the certification did for me was give me sort of a frame to hang the work that I was already
I think
and be able to make choices congruent to that picture.
Yeah. So we missed just a little bit there. I lost you a little bit. You said you were talking about just before you said making things congruent to their picture. So you're working with moms to look at what they're.
Yeah, they create a picture of themselves for themselves so that they can make choices that are congruent to that picture. Because we have so many contradicting thoughts and input and so many different, the information we're in overload. And I watch mothers really, and when we get over, either tip to anxiety or depression typically. Either it's too much and we start to shut down, or in the same way that the subluxation in a practice, the nervous system responds with an overload, too much or too little. And so just finding ways to restore integrity to the thought processes that a mom is having.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on moms these days and what they think they need to be doing, or what they think they need to look like, or how their children need to be. So I love that you focus on finding out and really getting deep with that mom and finding out what is important to her, regardless of what other people around her are saying. With moms, I know you've worked with chiropractic moms, and I see this in chiropractic boards, that we're overwhelmed with being a doctor and being a mom and being caregivers and trying to take care of ourselves and trying to market and do all these things. But it reaches out beyond just chiropractic moms. I see it with all the moms I take care of. So I know you focus on health, happiness, and impact. And that really draws me in, because a lot of people talk about health and happiness. You want to be healthy, you want to have balance, you want to be happy, but you don't talk a lot about impact. People want to make a difference and make an impact. So tell me why those three things were the three things that you focus on.
Well, I think that one of the first questions that I ask moms is, tell me who you are at your best. And I'd say the majority of the moms will start out with a response sounding something like, well, I can tell you what she doesn't look like. I can tell you what I don't look like. And that part of the reason for that is that they're what's reflecting back to them are the things that are challenging them. So we recognize that we do have an impact. We just don't like it. A lot of times what we're seeing happen reflected back to us are the things that we don't like, rather than recognizing that we can create impact that we do like and we do enjoy, and does bring laughter and smiles, and a happier, healthier home is the impact, amongst other things, whether it's more energy and vitality and contribution in other ways, whether it's volunteer or work, professional, personal, relationship, investment. There's so many ways that we do impact. It's just what kind of impact do we want to have?
Yeah. And don't we always notice and recognize the things that we don't like?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, you're your worst critic, I think. Like, everyone
mm-hmm.
notices you, like, oh my goodness, I'm doing everything horrible. But
right.
You ask 5 of your closest friends and they'll think you're doing amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to, I think, bring that back and focus on the good that you have, because I see moms all the time who are doing incredible, amazing, powerful things, but they don't see it in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with moms to help them to see that?
Well, part of the work that we do, if we were in a series of coaching sessions, after we create that picture, a mom creates that picture, and I ask the questions like, I really want to know your best self. How do you sleep? How do you eat? How do you move? How do you play? What are your relationships like? What's your tone of voice like? What's your schedule like? What do you at your best in your reality? Like, not somebody else's life, not in a different state, not in a, not 5 years from now, but like you at your best. Who are you? And so a mom really becoming clear with that, and then we shrink that picture down into a 3-month picture, and then dial it back down further, kind of like Google Maps, where you can zoom in and you start to see the street names. Zoom it into just this week. What's a step that moves you on that map, on that priority, on that area that needs your attention first? And in the same way that, when we start out, let's say we're going to go wash the dishes, after dinner, you don't only wash the dishes, right? I mean, like, you never just wash the dishes and that's it. You wipe down the counter, or you wipe off the table, or you sweep the floor, or you tidy up a stack of something. You do other things because you're in that space and you're aware of those needs. When you create that big picture, even though you zoom in and you hold intention for one thing, you will become active simply by making that motion of, beginning that movement to address the other areas as well. So getting clear about what we really even want.
Yeah.
And then having a coach helps, or taking self-reflection if you don't have a coach, or you don't have somebody that's walking that sort of perspective reflection piece back with you. You can even do it for yourself. Sort of looking at your life overlaid on that picture, and realize that you do have a lot of what you're looking for. There's just ways that we can improve it.
Yeah. I think I noticed that too a lot, that when we have gratitude for the things that we have, and we realize that we have. And some of the times we think we want things because that's maybe what society tells us we should want, or what Facebook tells us we should want, because we want to do the things that our peers are doing and our friends are doing. I know in chiropractic, for a long time, there was a push to have a certain type of practice. And usually that was a very busy practice, lots of hours, lots and lots of patients, push, push, push. And I've seen a switch in the past few years, I think, as women have come more to the forefront and talking about how practices can be run differently and still successful and still thriving and still impactful. That changes are coming, and people are at more ease with what they are doing and more grateful. So you've been doing this for a little while now, doing some coaching, but officially for a while, but you've also been helping moms for a while, even before that, through your practice and things. Have you seen a shift with the Facebook world or the social media world? Are people getting better or worse? Is it bringing people together? Are you seeing more stress and more?
They're both. And there are aspects of it where I think people can find some community that says, yeah, I struggle with that too, or that happened to me. But it can't replace the FaceTime, like not FaceTime like you and I are having FaceTime on a phone, but like honestly being able to sit with somebody and have them, put their hand on your hand while you're having a conversation and say, oh yeah, no, I get that. You can't. I think that social media has isolated people, and motherhood is already such an isolating season, especially when the kids are younger. It's very, very isolating physically because you're, schedule wise, it's like there's naps and there's, like all of these limitations. But then even once they're elementary and middle school ages, there's some isolation, some separateness, because, your kids are like, no, I don't want you to tell such and such about this. Or, there's, again, that a different level of isolation in a different way, So it's a hard. Motherhood is just hard. It's just, I had a friend recently that had somebody say to her, well, I wish I could tell you it gets better. And I went on to say, no, it doesn't get better. It just gets different. It just gets different.
Yeah, the challenges are different. My children are still fairly young. My oldest is 13 and a half, and my youngest is 1.5 for 20 months. So I have a couple in between. And definitely some days the 1.5-year-old is more challenging than the 13.5-year-old, but the 13.5-year-old has situations and things that are challenging and hard, and oh my goodness. So I definitely see that it doesn't really necessarily get easier. Maybe gets less physically demanding, but then the emotional, social aspect gets a lot harder, I think.
I have 33, 30, 17, 13, and 10 are my children's ages. And I have spent more emotionally with the 33-year-old in the last week than I have the other 4 combined. And my 30-year and they live around the corners. So I in the afternoon a couple along, like I call it full spectrum parenting, and it's not easy, it doesn't get easier, it just gets different. But perspective is everything though on it. Like hard doesn't have to mean bad. Right? Like labor is hard. Right? It's worthwhile. It's the most empowering, beautiful, hard experience, but motherhood it's hard.
But it is
it comes with challenges to grow us.
But it changes everybody. It changes you, it changes your spouse. Of course it changes your kids because they
No
wouldn't be
doubt.
there without you being a parent at all.
Right.
So,
Right.
I know, it's amazing. So what are if you had a couple of top tips, like a mom who's listening right now who maybe doesn't have a coach or doesn't know where to start and feels a little unhealthy and unhappy and feels like they're, getting to that edge of maybe depression or anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to start? What are your tips for those moms or dads even?
I think one of the biggest things is to do some perspective check, to really get a picture of who it is that you desire to express. Like, who are you, and are you living congruent to that? And a lot of times at the very beginning, the first session is an hour and a half, and I do basically the first session. There's a free recording on the website, and it's actually a recording from January of 2017. I need to re-record it because it says that it's January 2017 on the recording. But essentially, it's a coaching call all out together. Like, it doesn't take the time for somebody to actually write down who are you. But in that time, you can take that great big picture and shrink it all the way down into a place that doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And then you periodically hold that picture up, and just know yourself and learn to navigate on your grid, your piece of Google Map that is this. Like, I desire to volunteer in my kids' school and work and support moms and shop at the farmer's market, right? I can't do all of those things at the exact same time. I desire to support the chiropractic profession and offices like yours that support and serve moms, right? Well, technically, I guess if I started it ahead of time. Anyways, but you get my point. We have to take that perspective of, okay, what are the most important parts right now? And really dial it back, because that's where the overwhelm happens, is that we're looking at this big picture that isn't necessarily ours.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying to fulfill other people's expectations and dreams, and that's where the overwhelm comes from. I homeschool our kids, and so sometimes I get overwhelmed when I find myself trying to put expectations of them in a certain space where that isn't really where I want them to be when I look at it myself. But when I shift out of what we're doing and what our goals are and put myself into someone else's goals and expectations of where we should be or where they should be, it gets overwhelming, and I find myself getting worked up. So I think that is definitely the number one goal, is to figure out where you are, where you want to be, and not look at what everyone else's influence is on that. But how do you work with moms who maybe have a different idea of what they want to do, where they want to be, that is separate from maybe their spouse or someone who's really, really close to them, who you're going through life with?
So I have had moms that I've worked with that have partnerships that there's conflict, and there's or you have through a season being able to own what their desires are and sort of coach through maybe the communication process, and figure out how, like, even asking your kids. In fact, I had a mom just yesterday talking about the transition into high school with her almost 14-year-old, and she's like, but I'm really worried about this part of it. And I was like, well, is your daughter worried about that part of it? And she's like, no, but I want her to have this. And I said, does your daughter want to have that? And she's like, well, no. And it's important for us to ask the questions of others. What are the most important parts for you? So that, because you share a map too, so it's not just your map. You also have, like, your maps overlay in your lives. So asking questions so that you can understand what the most important parts are for the people that you're choosing to be in relationship with.
Yeah, I use the analogy of my life is literally like a circus. So I have my ring and I'm kind of the ring master of my circus,
Mm-hmm.
but there's other rings going on all the time and they have their
Yep.
own thing going on in their rings that
Yep.
are connected to mine, but also separate from mine. So the more rings you add, the more complicated they can get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's
That's a great
definitely,
analogy. Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely, you can't just say, this is what I'm doing and not
Right.
consider what's going on in the other rings of your life too.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm like, I have all kinds of crazy circus acts going on.
Mm-hmm.
So moms who
Yeah.
are really feel like they're not making an impact per se. I know you mentioned earlier that you just focus and tell moms like, look, you are making an impact one way or another, whether you even really recognize it. But for moms who maybe feel like they aren't fulfilling their destiny or making the impact in their community or what they want to do around them, how do you, I guess, refocus them or help them along those lines?
So it would again be getting clearer about what that picture is. What does that even mean to them? Um, if they could just sort of brainstorm and imagine and play with the idea of it, what could it look like? And if one of the questions that I ask often is like, so 3 months from now, if we hadn't talked in 3 months and all of a sudden, I ran into you or we did this interview again, and I said, so tell me, how's the whole impact thing going? And you were like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Da 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 da. What would you say? Like,
Yeah.
how would you finish that sentence? And so I don't tell people what to do. I do very little of that. I will, when we brainstorm, I might put a whole bunch of things on the table with them, and maybe one of those things resonates, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to try that. That sounds really cool." You know,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, and this is, again, it affirms, and I think one of the reasons it resonates so much for me is looking at chiropractic and the philosophy of chiropractic and the innate expression of our potential. It's a wisdom inside of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you as the practitioner are facilitating the process, but the patient is the one that's doing the healing. And so in the same way that for a mom who's looking for impact, that's her innate expression. My role of asking the questions, how would you finish that sentence? How would it be amazing 3 months from now?
Yeah.
That's her question to answer.
Yeah.
That's her sentence to finish.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's more about clarifying and just getting rid of
Mm-hmm.
the rubbish that's, I think,
Yeah.
around surrounding their
Yeah.
thinking. Because I think people know deep down, they know what they want to do or what their impact or what they want their life to look like. But they might have a lot of garbage and rubbish around that, trying to clarify it for themselves. So I think that's what you do, is just making things clear. Like you said with the daughter, just is that what she wants? And it's just like, it sounds so easy for
Right.
us to look in and say those things, but at the time, it doesn't seem that easy. It doesn't, like,
No.
well, yeah, that seems so straightforward.
Well,
Like, of
and there's
course.
so many, I mean, it's coming in so many directions,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
especially if you've got, and I say, if you have one kid or you have 10 kids, you still give everything you have, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, you're still spent.
Yeah.
Um, but it's how, there's how many voices are.
Yeah. How many little
Right.
people with their feelings and their desires and their talents and their struggles and everybody around you. And then, yeah. Yeah, I have 4, so I'm not
Yeah.
quite at that 5 yet. But it's,
1 or 10, you still give everything.
yes, I think that in some ways it's, like I said, I don't think it's any harder to have 4 than it was to have 1. Because I agree. You
Right.
give 110% to what you're doing to be that parent. So,
Yeah.
so do you have any final words about anything that we didn't chat about you want to share with people?
I think that it's, especially when moms are starting to feel overwhelmed, and I just knowing in that, remember, you're never, ever, ever alone. ever, ever, ever alone. And there are resources and there are people, and, whether it's, you have a team, and you have skills and you have experiences that you can draw from, not to look at the past to wrestle with it, but learn from it, like something that didn't work yesterday and you didn't like it, that's okay. You can use that experience to do something different. Our perspective changes everything, and it's a hard thing to practice, but it's a muscle that can be exercised. Really getting more mindful, more intentional about will change the way.
Yeah. Well, you just froze on me right at the end, so hopefully you'll come back on here really quick. But I want to thank you very much for sharing with us, with sharing with the moms that I reach out to, and anybody who's going to watch this now or who's watching it in the future.
Yep.
If you guys have any questions for me or for Lisa, you can email me or send me messages on Facebook. Lisa can be found at OptiMOM Coaching. Her contacts for her websites are found in the description of the video, and I'm sure she'd be more than happy to chat with you to see if she can help you with finding your health and happiness and impact in your life and creating more ease in your life so that you can go on to help your family, because your children are watching what is going on. They see what's what you're doing. Always good and bad.
Yeah.
And so we want to live a healthy, happy life, and we want to show our children that is okay to take care of themselves and to have a drive to be who they are and live true to themselves. So I encourage all moms, all people to do that for themselves.
Yeah, I would add that not only do we have that we want to instill that and inspire that for our children, but we want to, like, it's our job to be responsible for our health and happiness. Like, my health and happiness is only my job. Like, that doesn't fall to anybody else. And I want my kids to be able to own that responsibility for themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's our human nature and really probably our human right to live a life fulfilled and live to our potential. And when we do that, then other people will see us doing that, and it'll create a healthier world all around us, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
we have a responsibility to it.
Yes. Thank you very much, Lisa, for coming on. Like I said, you can reach either of us on the links that we have on the contacts. And we will sign off for today and wish you guys a very blessed, healthy, happy Monday and rest of the week.
Yep. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.